All right, good afternoon to you and you're welcome to the program. It's Good Afternoon Ghana, and we're continuing with analysis of what's going on in the country. But we have an issue that has to do with election 2024, and that's the opposition promising a 24-hour economy. We're dedicating some time to that, economic promise, and then analyze what the situation really, or what that promise really means, because it's already debatable in the atmosphere. We have Joyce Mutari, who is special aide to former president. Joyce John Dramani Mahama, she will join us, and also Samuel Osabote is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Business at the Accra Technical University. Also, Dr. Daniel Amate Enim is a chief economist, and he will join us. He's with the PID Africa. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll start talking about this issue. All right, you're welcome to the program. It's Good Afternoon, Ghana. And I was earlier on discussing the 24-hour economy as promised by former President John Dramani Mahama to you. That's what we're talking about this afternoon. Let's go for the video where he talked about that particular promise. What did he say in these promises before we come back to our guests?
We intend to implement a 24-hour economy. And by this, we will provide incentives in terms of reduction in corporate taxes and other exemptions to businesses that will sign up to the 24-hour economy initiative. And if we remember, in the past, but then we must also look at the security side and make sure that we provide them with security. Because remember, in the past, filling stations used to work 24 hours. Unfortunately, armed robbers started attacking them, and because of that, they all closed at about 10 o'clock. And so if we're able to provide them with adequate security, businesses and services like that, there's no reason why they can't operate 24 hours. And we'll give them the tax incentives to be able to do so. We'll identify and promote strategic growth areas such as IT with a targeted $3 billion investment, and drive an aggressive infrastructure development under our Big Push program. We will shift attention from the macro economy to the micro and focus on growth in the real sector instead of just on macroeconomic stability. Additionally, we'll support the TUC and organized labor to expand its current investments and establish new joint businesses and ventures with third parties to also provide employment to our people. And you can see organizations like Quality Insurance, which are established by labor. I'm sure there are more places where labor can invest its resources. As part, it should not only exist for people to establish industries and go and unionize. We should also establish industries and have unions formed against you, the employer yourself. As part of our industrial policy, we will develop policies that promote Ghanaian ownership and control of major sectors and encourage a Buy Ghana agenda.
Welcome back. So those are excerpts of the former President John Dramani Mahama's issue and promise, or a little breakdown about a 24-hour economy. We have Daniel Osabote, who's joined me already in the studio. He's senior lecturer, Faculty of Business at the Accra Technical University. You're welcome. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming into the studio here. We'll have Joyce Bauer join us. She's aide to former president, but Dr. Daniel Amate Enim is chief economist and also PID Africa. He's joined us via Zoom. Doc, if you can respond, yes. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Right, thank you for your time. You're welcome to the program. Let me start with you, Dr. Osabote. So I'm sure we have all been pondering over this 24-hour economy. Is this something, in your field as an economist, Is it new? Is it something that's strange well, it will be interesting for Ghanaians to go into, or we're already in the practice, as the debate is suggesting?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say good afternoon to viewers of Metro TV this afternoon. Yes, it is not new, because if you look at a 24-hour economic system, we have it running in South Korea, we have it in Singapore, and then if you get to the US of A, we have in the, I think New York City, they have the 24-hour economy running. So Africa, I would say that maybe we are setting the pace if we are able to roll it out. But even though it is not full 24-hour economic system, years back we used to have these filling stations running throughout the day, throughout 24 hours. But then it got to a point where armed robbers started attacking them, so they had to now limit the operations to, I think, up to 10 p.m. So that is a form of 24-hour service. Now, if you ask 24-hour service or 24-hour economic system, what does it mean? What it simply means is that there is going to be a fundamental shift from the normal hours that we work and 5 days within a week to have a continuous, economic activities, have continuous business activities, services running and all that. So it is something that we can easily achieve. And more so, I was asking myself, how do we break this record of going to IMF the 17th time? How do we break away from this record? One of the things that we can use to break the penchant of we going to IMF anytime we find ourselves in a crisis is to really look into this 24-hour economic system. I would like to say that even though this is a proposal from the former president, I believe that we should incorporate it into our national agenda and look at it as an agenda that can move this country forward, because it brings with it lots of benefits if we are able to really roll it out effectively.
Right. Let me engage Mr. Nim. Doctor.
Hello.
Yes. What is your opening remarks as well on this 24-hour economy? He's saying that other countries are practicing, of course, in Africa. We don't know if Ghana is able to do, then it would be good that we break that jinx. So it comes with positive, incentives. Do you also go with the same debate that we already have a 24-hour economy as is coming from persons within government?
Thank you very much, Annie. Yes, just to take from what Sabote just outlined, yes, I had an opportunity of visiting South Korea as well as Japan and other economies. And it appears that, rightly so, they're running 24-hour economy. To me, this is a model which is very a laudable idea, that if it is properly implemented, will beef up productivity. Even though there are some issues that ought to be tied to the policy, which during the course of our discussion, I will point it out for His Excellency President Mahama and then the team to consolidate the policy in a manner that would be very achievable and potent. But my initial remark is that this is a very laudable idea, a very progressive one, so to speak, on paper. Yes, years back we have a template. We used to run partially 24-hour economy for some of the institutions. Quickly, I think we used to do that for VACO in Tema and Aluex, because VACO runs 24-hour. They have the shift system, people coming from working during the day and the evening. So you have the buses going to Ashama, Tema, another part of Tema, bringing workers to come and work in the evening and go. Core used to run that kind of system. And Unilever, also years back, for now, I don't know, used to run such a system. So what it means is that we had an opportunity of such a template. And I'm of the view that probably His Excellency, the President Mahama, wanted to roll it out on a larger scale, or on a very large scale, which is very good and progressive. And to me, I don't know if I can quickly tie in with some of the points that we go in. As much as it is a very progressive, policy and an idea that if it is a role, it will ensure that we beef up productivity. Number one, just like he indicated in the video that you played, that security issue that I think my senior over there also mentioned about security. Security is very key. If people are working in the evening, then what it means is that you need to provide adequate security to assure them the same security as those working during the day, which is very key. So what it means is that there must be a budgetary allocation for the police service. So it is not just a matter of identifying security issue. There must be an investment into that by way of them employing more, getting more logistics to be able to beef up. And if that is also done, what it means is that more jobs will be created for the citizens. So that is it. Another aspect of it is that it is not just a matter of running a 24-hour economy. You need to trigger or create demand for whatever is to be produced. So for instance, if you are producing X product, you must ensure that there's market for it. Other than that, you produce more and it will be locked up in the warehouse. And when products are locked up in warehouse, it affects liquidity. Okay, so you create demand. Now, one of the things that could be done is that products or institutions that are producing locally within the domestic economy, who have competitors or people importing same into the economy, there should be a deliberate policy to minimize that. Then we increase productive capacity to meet local demand. I think another thing that will make the policy a very progressive one, in my view, respectfully, is by using diplomacy to create market for such companies within the sub-region. What I mean by using diplomacy to create market for them is that some of our neighbors within the sub-region import from other countries. They import from Indonesia, Taiwan, and then the rest, China, etc. Product that we can produce, we must use diplomacy to sell to our neighbors within the sub-region, so more jobs could be created in that particular space. So to my mind, these are some of the things that when it is added to the policy to be very progressive to achieve. So in my view, countries are running it. The last time I visited Istanbul, I wanted to buy something. I checked the time; it was around 1 a.m. I said, "Wow, how on earth am I going to get it?" Right. So I step out and I realized that everywhere shops are working 24/7 and busy. I think one of the things that His Excellency mentioned that is to me it's also progressive is that the tax aspect, that they will give incentives to companies that wanted to kind of ascribed to this policy.
Yeah.
But the caution is that it ought to be rolled gradually.
Which I know that some economists have criticized that you cannot force the people into a 24-hour economy. But with his explanation, that's with John Mahama's explanation, he says that it is not obligatory, but it comes with a provision of certain incentives that if you're a business or if you agree to go under that 24/7 service provision, then you benefit from those incentives. And so he already sets the platform for making that economy attractive for companies to want to be involved.
Yes, I think it's a very good kind of initiative. The explanation that he offered is quite good, and I think that is okay. But what I would advise, and I gave that advice when this current government wanted to roll 1D, 1F, and I indicated that rolling out this program on a large scale will be fatal to the success of the program. My recommendation then was to focus on the existing institutions, existing companies, and support them to increase productive capacity or to expand the scale of the operation. Okay, in similar vein, my view respectfully is that government can start with some state-owned or partially state-owned institutions, okay? And then you roll out the private sector gradually into the policy. Okay, I agree perfectly that tax incentives will be given to such institutions to induce them to participate or to roll or to prescribe to this particular policy, which is very good. But the point is that if you look at our financial position as a nation, it will take a lot of money to be able to give tax incentives. Or in other words, when you give more tax incentives, you reduce your revenue base. So my view is that we can run this policy in phases, starting with state institutions that have the capacity to produce by way of running a 24-hour economy. there are some of the strategic private sector institutions that quickly government can focus on, have this discussion with them. Okay, and once that is done, others will roll into the equation. So my view is that as much as I support this policy, it ought to be done cautiously. It ought to be done in phases so that we do not roll it on a large scale where it will not be able to function very well.
Let me come to you in the studio. I mean, currently we're giving tax incentives out. We have about 400 million of tax incentives we're giving to, I don't know, companies. Some are foreign, I will say mostly foreign companies. So do we have a reason to complain when we have someone coming up and saying that I will give those tax incentives to local producers, to local manufacturers, to local companies who want to be involved in the 24-hour economy?
Yeah, and if you look at this proposal from the former president, I did indicate that if we are able to roll it out effectively, in fact, it's going to be a panacea to we going to IMF almost every 4 years, because it's going to help the economy to expand and to develop. You see, so far, our GDP growth, the real GDP growth, is not so appreciable. What we are experiencing now in terms of growth is more of the nominal GDP growing. And we shouldn't forget that with the nominal GDP growing, it is because we have not been able to control inflation. So we see our GDP nominal growth, but businesses are not expanding. They are not making enough profit. So the growth has to do with the fact that we always record high inflation. And it's different from real GDP. And I see this 24-hour economy system bringing in real GDP growth. Why? Because we'll have companies going to run shifts, right? They will need more labor. And unemployment will reduce. People will have money in their pockets. They will be able to patronize whatever is being produced. We are also aiming at stabilizing our cedi. And of course, if you try to curtail importation in order to stabilize your cedi, what is going to happen is that if you don't have import substitution within, you are going to have a problem. And I see this 24-hour economy also bringing in, import substitution, because you have companies who, because of the tax incentive, they would rather prefer to enroll on this particular 24-hour provision instead of going the normal way. And already we are giving tax incentives to some of these companies. So we are looking at the costs that government has to bear as against the benefit. And I foresee the benefit to be more than whatever government will be incurring in terms of costs.
Hold on there. Joyce Baramutari has joined us. She's aide to former President John Dramani Mahama. Thank you for your time, Joyce. If you can hear me, good afternoon to you. Hello, Joyce. Okay, so we're trying to engage Joyce Bauer. She's a lawyer and also aide to former President John Dramani Mahama. They made that promise and want to find out a few things. Maybe the former president may have done some groundwork to have come to that conclusion, because it's not so clear, as in the state in which Ghana is, you're not sure what wild decision we can take and really go by that decision. Mr. Nim was talking about the policies the government proposed, like 1D, 1F, for example. And he said that we have to focus on the existing ones. That's what he advised government to do. I'm sure that government may have not necessarily go by his advice, but that's what government ended up doing anyway. Most of the factories, that have been captured as successful 1D, 1F policy are already existing, factories with government partnered with to boost it. Is that not what
But I'll go by the system or the policy being rolled out in phases. We should pilot it, okay? We can look at services like, of course, with health, we already have it. Just that after a certain period, you go to the hospital, you may not have the services of a physician, specialist, or whatever. So we can bring in some of these specialists.
But because we don't have a system of 24-hour service, you cannot question when you go to You know, some companies are practicing that. But even if you go and those practicing companies are not there,
Yes.
you can't question
You
them.
can't question them.
Because
Exactly.
the system is not there.
Exactly.
People are just doing, or companies are doing that because they feel they can. And so they are just doing it on their own.
Yeah.
But it's not a policy that Ghana is considering.
It's not
or
a policy.
has.
Yeah, it is not a policy. But I believe that once we begin to roll it out in phases, and I know some companies will adopt the wait and see attitude. Okay, whether it will inure to the benefit of those companies that have ruled on this policy, but they'll be attracted to it. Because, look, my sister, we are talking about congestion in Accra. Between 7 a.m. and then 5 p.m. Look at the congestion in Accra. Congestion. Now, if you know that when you get to Mokola around 7 p.m., stores will be open around 8 p.m. You'll have whatever you want to buy. I'll opt to go around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and then do my transactions. Okay, so in a way, it is going to also reduce cost of living. I mean, can you imagine you being in traffic for 2 hours when you can decide to get to Accra after 9 p.m. without traffic? So it is a system that will make the whole thing very attractive. And I don't think that companies will have to be cajoled or be pushed into this particular policy. They themselves will see the benefits in it.
But you said we should pilot. So
Yes.
which areas would you advise that we should start piloting
I think we can start from the-
Doc says maybe some of the government agencies will make sense if you start, piloting from there. I'm not sure which government agency we can start doing that with.
Yeah, we have, at least you can begin with the passport. Now you go to the passport office and the congestion, the line there. So I think that if we decide to adapt the foreign affairs to pilot this, the congestion during the day will reduce because somebody knows that when he gets there, even 12, midnight, he will still get whatever service that he or she wants. So we should look at essential sectors and then begin to pilot them. And with the private, I think that I'll suggest we also look at the energy sector, okay, where we used to have filling stations running 24/7. We can definitely beef up security for them to begin. It will help, okay. And as my brother rightly mentioned, it all boils down to we having robust security system in place. CCTV cameras should be everywhere. Government must invest in infrastructure. And I mean, it is something that is doable. We shouldn't sit and say that it's a political talk and it is something that we cannot do. We can do it if we all decide, in addition to we having that attitudinal change, if we decide that we are going to have a 24-hour economy running, we should be able to do that. Of course, with proper stakeholder consultation, as the former president has already started. We need to bring ideas together and see how best we can make it work.
Doc, okay, I'm told that Joyce Bauer has now joined us again. If you can hear me now, good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon to you, Annie. Very good afternoon to everybody.
Right.
I'm sure you know that we're in the middle of nowhere. We're on our way to Kintampo, so we're in the Bono East today. The network has been very, very poor, so my very sincere apologies. But I'm here now. Let's hope it will hold up for a while.
But we're very grateful that you made some time to speak to us. First, let me find out. When John Mahama mentions 24-hour economy on your tour, how has it been received, by the various places that you've been to?
Well, I think it is actually indeed a game changer. I think that all the groups that we've met, the various engagements we've had so far, many of the individuals we've engaged have been very, very, very receptive. I mean, for many, many months, for many years now, we've been grappling with unemployment. Scores of young people leave our universities, leave our colleges of education, and they are unable to hold down a job. For many of our young people, to hold down a decent job and earn a decent wage has simply been a mirage. I have no doubt in my mind. Look, Annie, when all of us and the guests in the studio go to the United States of America, to the Canada, to Europe, and all these developed economies, how many of them have developed without a 24-hour economy? There was a night when I left the program very late in Accra, and I realized that my car tires had actually gone very, very flat. I tried very hard to find a place, and eventually someone directed me to the airport shell. It was almost 1 a.m. I was so grateful. Until date, one of the gentlemen who helped me out is still my friend. And every now and then I'll send him a text message to say thank you for how kind he was to me at that time of the night. I have no doubt that many people will actually welcome this fantastic idea. But of course, considering where we've come from, considering our history, and the many manifesto promises that were made in the past, I am delighted that many people are challenging President Mahama and the NDC and all of us to explain how we intend to implement this all-important initiative. I'm also delighted to indicate that the Trades Union Congress of Ghana has itself undertaken some research and admits that this will be a fantastic opportunity to create very critical jobs for many of our young people who currently struggle to find a decent job. And Annie, look around all of us and tell me one thing. Do you remember the days of Africa Online and all the internet cafes that we used to have dotted around the capital of Accra and across the country? You could walk in at any time till about 10, 11 p.m. and print out a document and send an email and what have you. The reasons why we no longer have these sorts of businesses has been largely, one, to do with a lack of security and safety for the persons who work. It is also instructive that President Mahama mentions that first is to encourage, look, go to the port of New York, for example. It is open 24 hours. The people who work there are people who come in at different times of the day. Everywhere that you visit, all the people you visit in other countries, working a shift system is a very normal way of life. I am convinced that I expect that Ghanaians will continue to demand that we explain, continue to hold us to the promises we are making, and that they will also appreciate the fact that the People's Manifesto of 2020 was actually one of the best manifestos that the NDC has ever presented to the electorate. And across the country so far, in the Bunu East, in the Bunu region, we are currently in the Ahafo region. Each and every opinion leader and every young person has actually welcomed the implementation of this all-important policy. First and foremost, government must also provide some incentives as a way of motivating and encouraging businesses to participate. Annie, just imagine those days whenever we try to buy credit, for example, for our ECG meters. You will get there at 2 o'clock and you'll be told that today is Sunday, we have closed already.
Right.
So ask yourself, if we can access these facilities across the night, how would our system be? There was a day when there was a flight going to Tamale, for example, after 8 p.m., the flight had delayed. We were told that the groundsmen had closed because there was no correspondence to the fact that the flight was going to be arriving a little after the normal closing time. These are all things that have actually impacted negatively also on our economy. Look, as Ghanaians, we must be prepared to make some sacrifices, first and foremost. We must also be prepared to appreciate that some leaders will speak the truth, irrespective. We also ought to appreciate that our leaders are there for us to challenge and demand accountability from. I am happy that President Mahama and the NDC are being put to the test, that the right questions are being asked, that the right explanations are being requested. Above all, everybody knows that if we have a genuine government-backed, systems-backed, information-backed, above all, that various regulations are passed to encourage people to accept some tax incentives to implement a three-system shift. I have no doubt in my mind that this 24-hour economy is what our economy requires to re-gig, to reboost, and to generate a certain robust atmosphere for growth in our country. And all the young people are particularly pleased with this initiative.
Does he appreciate the challenge it comes with? He has already mentioned the issue of security. If you watch other countries that are in their 24-hour practice, you see that during the night when criminal activities are ongoing, during the day we have the benefit of security cameras capturing these, criminal activities because the security cameras are spread all over the country. We don't have the benefit of that in Ghana. And the situation with security is a little questionable. So I'm not sure how people can trust the system and commit to this 24-hour service provision?
Let me first and foremost indicate categorically that the Shell at the airport in particular is one that has been open for many years now.
Yeah.
And I know that apart from 2 isolated incidents, they have relatively had very safe security and safe environment and even guaranteed the security of their customers. I also know many other individual companies, manufacturing companies in the plastic sector that remain open all hours. I know the mining sector in particular has a system that remains for some facilities that remain open. Annie, I am, for example, in to have it. There was a time when we had a unit called the Panthers Unit. And responsibility was to patrol the streets of the Greater Accra and across the country. In those days, crime was almost at a very low rate. You will have the odd isolated incidents and they will nip in the back very quickly. I, of course, if we all buy into this initiative, if we all buy into its implementation, what we then need to do will be to ensure put government on its toes and encourage the future NDC administration to put in place the regular cameras, the security, and what have you that we need. Remember that most of these companies that we speak of already have in place regular security facilities. What they need is extra security to guarantee their safety and to ensure. And remember that as soon as you start implementing such secure and safe work environments and places, gradually you will find that the petty criminals will actually be put to book and they will all stop. One of the reasons why security at regular places is very important is that eventually you'll find that people are deterred because they know that these places are protected, that this environment is safe and secure. So yes, security is a very, very critical component.
Let me cite the example of maybe these taxi, Uber and Django, I think. When they started, they used to run a 24-hour services. Now they've started complaining that they are being attacked. And now there are even some places, if you ask them to take you, they will not because they think those areas are red zones. So they will never go. And so even they are reducing, the hours of service provision. So, with workers of such nature, how can they benefit from this 24-hour service?
Well, I remember years ago when the GPNet used to run this particular system. We had buses that used to carry their staff to and from work. The mining companies, for example, similar bus arrangements in place. I know that the port authority at the time when they used to have late night shifts, for example, and buses with, of course, added security. You would always have such odd and isolated incidents. But I am convinced that security is only one component of the full implementation of a sustainable 24-hour shift. The second thing we need to do is to have regulations in place that will require some tax exemptions to companies that sign on to this 24-hour shift. The third thing will be insurance, which is very important, that we ensure these workplaces, we ensure the transportation, and we, of course, ensure the workers who come in and out. A lot of factories are open, at least a few of them in our country are open, and they are open 24 hours. I know a pharmaceutical company, for example, that is open 24 hours. They have security in place, it is even private security. But because they produce very high-level sensitive vaccines, they are open all night because they must ensure that the vaccines are ready and fresh to be delivered to the next places in the morning.
Right.
Note that export businesses are also businesses that benefit from a 24-hour shift. In the UK and Europe and other places, what happens is that most of the fruits that are exported are packed overnight. And when we were all students, if you remember, we all used to go to these places and invest in some of these companies. So it is something that can be replicated here beautifully. Beyond security, beyond safety, we must also have commitment from government. We must also ensure that when the companies are being provided with these incentives, that they are applied effectively to sustain this sort of process. And of course, some government agencies, public institutions that have services that can require all night must likewise be encouraged to keep open and stay open. Remember that data processing is one of the biggest exports from some of these Asian countries. What it means is that the systems will still remain open because people are on different time zones. And so once you are open all night, you are serving Asia, you are serving Europe, you are serving the Americas. Each and every one is in a different time frame. So what it means is that when you're open, you are able to serve in all of these countries, and yet you remain where in your home and behind your desk. These are things that have been tried and tested. They are being done across the world.
Right.
You remember when Agua was first introduced, for example? They were working all night. You remember? So these are matters that have been tried and tested, and it's not something that is cast in stone. But I welcome first and foremost this fantastic initiative. I'm delighted that the young people of Ghana know that John Mahama and the NDC have what it takes to provide critical for young people. Look, if we can implement this, if we can, then if they will, government should be able to deliver on red jobs, deliver on growth, deliver on a better economy, or deliver on a tourism that we have never.
Right, Joyce, I think we'll leave it here. I'm losing you because you're on the move, but thank you for making some time with us. Joyce Bauer is 8. Can you hear me now? Hello, Joyce. Okay. Joyce Bauer Mutari is aide to former President John Dramani Mahama. Apologies for the late mess up on the line. But let's take a breather. When we come back, we'll wrap up on the issues. We're back shortly. Welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. Where earlier on was speaking with Joyce Bauer Mutari, who's aide to former President John Dramani Mahama. I still have Dr. Daniel Amate Enim with me. Doctor, are you still there?
Yes, I'm in Cameroon.
Okay, and I still have Daniel Sabote with me. Doc, let me wrap up with you before I come to Daniel. I hope you heard Joyce and some of the things she said. It's obvious the former president has studied the economy and what's going on, and therefore thought about this system.
Yes, of course, that is one of the things that he must do and ought to be seen doing, because as a major opposition leader, if you don't study the economy, look at what your opponents are doing and come out with a very innovative strategy or an idea that will sell to the citizens, then you have no business seeking political power. So I think exactly so what it's doing. I think having listened to Bauer, it's evidently clear that they realize, as much as it's a very good policy, there are hurdles to cross. And even though he has not been too direct with it, and just like myself and then Mr. Sabote indicated, I'm of the view, you can see from his summation that, yeah, these are issues that they have realized they need to devise strategy to get it done. But my point is that I don't want it to be just like a mere political promise just to win political power, but there should be a commitment towards its achievement, and by way of ensuring that the policy is rolled in phases. If that is done, I'm of the view, not across board, but some of the critical sectors that we have mentioned, ensuring that you put security in place first, you make sure that you have a system, and you make sure that where you are promoting the 24-hour economy, there's a demand for goods and services in that particular area. You ensure that the subsidies are very inducive to be able to roll businesses to subscribe to that. Then, of course, we should be in the process of achieving 24-hour economy. Let me also admit that achieving the 24-hour economy is not anything that could be achieved within 2, 3, 4 years. It is something that should be continuous and persistent. So we shouldn't come out with a policy with an assumption that this could be achieved within the next 2 years. If you have a system and you are introducing a new system, it's done in phases, or you have to gradually take your time and learn from some of the issues and the challenges that may crop up. You cited a very good example in respect of the Uber and the Yango guys. That case study to me is very good. There should be a test case for His Excellency, the former president, the team, to have a look at what is it that is making the drivers to minimize their 24-hour service. What is it that they don't want to visit certain areas that you have indicated? On the surface, it appears it's a security issue.
Yeah.
How do we quickly address it? So to me, before this 24-hour policy can be successful, we should be mindful and start thinking about security and how we can implement safe to ensure its successful implementation.
Doc, I thank you. I'll leave you here, and then next time we'll engage you again. Thank you for joining us. But let me wrap up with you, Dr. Sabote. Like he said, the top has been security.
Yes.
Most people are working today. Their salary is not good, but they are very, very satisfied.
Yes.
They are not satisfied. But yes, but they're
okay with it.
They're okay with it during the day. They will rather, I will not risk my life at night for a salary that I less deserve or I'm less deserving of. You understand? So when you implement a service like that, I have every right to question if it's worth me sacrificing my life for.
Yes.
Because today, I'm not sure what goes on in Ghana when it comes to security. We're driving in town, you're snatching your phones and all. So it's quite difficult. Last time I was asking on social media if people still give lifts to health workers.
It's difficult.
Yes. Even ordinary lifts.
Yeah.
We have nurses. Growing up, I had an auntie, when she's going to work, I go with her and she'll be picked up. Sometimes different cars. And as a kid, I didn't understand. She's a nurse. It's now that I appreciate, the essential service provision workers, they actually have to help them.
Yeah.
But today, I don't see that often. So I'm wondering what could be the matter.
Yeah, and it's true. You see, this whole proposal, I did indicate that if you are able to roll it out effectively, in fact, it's going to solve lots of problems within this country. Security is important, but we know that crime even occurs during the day. We have armed robbers who, even in the midst of the police, if they want to rob, they rob. We've seen it in Accra several times. You understand? And I'm looking at it from an angle where unemployment has risen, and therefore most of the reasons why crime is increasing could also be attributed to high unemployment rates.
Okay.
And I believe that if we are able to roll out this 24-hour economy system, what it means is that we are likely to reduce unemployment, and therefore crime is also likely to reduce.
These boys that's trending on social media, calling themselves devils or whatever.
Yes.
This gang.
Yes.
Watching the video, you can tell that a person like this is a hardened criminal.
Yes.
I'm not sure where I can employ such a person.
Oh.
There are many of our youth junkies, like him.
Yeah.
They actually get themselves involved in this cruel criminal activity.
Exactly. You see, lots of factors can lead people into such acts. You understand? You can look at it from the psychological point, where because a person has no job to do, he decides to get into a gang because he's unable to make ends meet. So a whole lot comes into this. And I believe that with this system, yes, as for crime, we can have isolated cases. Okay. And I'm also saying that for security, we cannot compromise it. But of course, the system can also help reduce crime rates, where we are able to help businesses to expand. Economic activities are expanding. People know that anywhere they can get whatever they want to have.
My time is up, but a quick one. Countries that are practicing 24-hour, they arrest criminals when they find them at night.
Yes.
But their prison system has been made in such a way that it reforms them. Such persons come out with creative things.
Exactly.
They find jobs to do and all that, but they can tell you that I'm an ex-convict and things like that. It means that they have been reformed.
Yes.
We don't have that system in Ghana.
And that is one system that we need to also incorporate to make sure that once we arrest criminals, they go in, they come out reformed. They don't go in and come out hardened criminals.
Thank you. Thank you for that short answer. And that's Daniel Sabote. He's senior lecturer, Faculty of Business at Accra Technical University. We earlier on spoke with Joyce Bauer, who's the aide to former President John Dramani Mahama, and also Dr. Daniel Amate Enim also joined us. He's Chief Economist, PIED Africa. Some economists do not think that this is feasible. Others also think that it's very feasible. Let's see how it goes. Thank you for your time. My name is Ania Fampofo. Thank you for being with me here on Good Afternoon, Ghana.